because Facebook has been giving me a run for my money, and Facebook Live has been glitching on me, but let's hope it works. Facebook, come on, Facebook, come on, let's go. Okay, I think we're live. Hopefully this works. I'm like crossing all my fingers and toes that this works, but I'm going to share with you today how to create a sustainable process for getting clients, and I hope this is so helpful for you. I included a link to the PDF client map. And if you haven't done your client map lately, my loves, it's time to renew and refresh that process that people go with you to going from like free to paid, right? And honestly, in my business, I redo this every few months. When I meet with my clients on a live retreat, this is the first thing I have them do is create a client map. And really, especially if you've been in business for a little while, your client map, mapping that out should only take you about 15 minutes, right? And so don't overcomplicate it. Grab that PDF, right? And really ask yourself, okay, what's my map right now? And I get a lot of questions on like, okay, does that mean I create this client map? Does every client going to come to me that way? Absolutely not, right? Right now, my main client map, when you think about the 6 main elements of your client map, one of those elements is my Facebook group. Do I get clients inside of my Facebook group? Yes. I've had people pay for my $7,500 package without ever being in my Facebook group, right? And so it doesn't mean, and I think that's the thing about getting clear, but also detaching. Hi, Lindsay. Happy Thursday. Is we want to get so clear on our path, on our client map, and having all those elements set up, but also being okay if like someone pays us money another way or reaches out another way. Okay. So what do I want to talk about today? So if you missed my live training a few weeks ago called What the Funnel, you're going to want to check that out because I talk all about what a funnel is, right? What a client map is. But today I want to dive a little bit deeper and talk about what's the roadblock in your funnel. Because when you think about creating a sustainable path to getting clients, not just like getting a client here or there, but really creating a literal path for getting clients, the biggest thing I want you to look at is what is my roadblock on the path, right? Because if you think, like I literally want you to vision right now a path, right? And when someone like sees you on the internet for the first time, somehow, somewhere, right? That's the start to their path, right? They go along this little windy path that you literally have laid out for them. It didn't just happen on accident, right? And then at the end, the right people along the path are going to work with you. And the people that aren't meant to aren't going to, right? And so, again, if you look at the PDF, I'm going to say the elements really quickly. At the bottom, it starts with traffic, right? So where are people coming from? And then next, we have 3 parts that go together. That's content, community, and free entry point. Then we have your sales process, and then we have your offer. It's just as simple as that, right? And so I want you to ask yourself, and I'm going to go over specifically 2 areas that I find women getting really stuck in their sustainable process for getting clients, 2 areas that I find to be more of the roadblock. And I'm just going to give you some practical tips on how to like troubleshoot those. And if yours is one of them, one of these that I mentioned, I hope this is helpful. But feel free to drop any questions you have for me along the way. Even if you're watching the replay, I'm happy to always come back and answer any questions that you have. I also want to remind you that today is early bird deadline for Visible Impact. And so if you're interested in 6 weeks of support with me for your business, PM me, DM me, let's chat and connect. Okay, so again, I outlined the client map, right? So the 2 biggest areas I see women getting stuck, right? Especially if you're not consistently making 3 to 5K every month, usually the biggest roadblock, right? Usually you're looking at the PDF and you're like, oh my gosh, I do have an offer, but I don't really feel good about it. Oh my gosh, I don't even have a freebie yet, right? Don't obsess over the client map yet if you haven't gotten your first client, right? At the start of your business, as you're starting to create consistent 3, 5K months plus, it's so important that you're just showing up and you're getting visible, right? And you're creating content and you're connecting in a really, really genuine way. And what I see as the biggest roadblock in the season of getting visible, right? Picking one platform to show up on, actually showing up on it consistently, creating your written content in advance, not just creating it day to day in the moment, but actually having it created in advance, right? That's so important. I want to share 4 types of negative self-talk. This isn't from me. This is from the Anxiety and Phobia Workbook, but I've found this to be so helpful with women being able to raise their hand and say, oh my gosh, yes, I struggle with that. So I'm going to name the 4 types of negative self-talk. This may be helpful if your roadblock is, I just need to start showing up. I just need to start getting visible, right? In order for my client map, this sustainable process to work, I need to show up and I need to be for people to see me, right? I need people to see me before I can start selling, before all those things. Like I need to be visible, right? Okay, so these are the 4 types of negative self-talk. Feel free to let me know which one of them is strongest for you in this season, and I'll let you know which one's my strongest lately too. Okay, the first one is the worrier. Next is the critic. Next is the victim. And finally is the perfectionist, right? I think we've all had these at some point. The first one, the worrier, promotes anxiety. The second one, the critic, promotes low self-esteem. The third one, the victim, promotes depression. And the fourth one, the perfectionist, promotes chronic stress and burnout. Hello, none of these are good things, right? And so the worrier imagines worst case, and this isn't you, this is your negative self-talk, right? Imagines worst case scenario, overestimates the odds of something bad happening, waiting with apprehension for small signs of trouble. What if, right? The critic constantly judges and evaluates your behavior, pointing out flaws, jumping on mistakes, ignoring positive qualities, and emphasizing weaknesses, calling you a failure and other labels. Can't you ever get it right? Right? So, I mean, I've definitely heard that before. Okay, the third is the victim, the part of you that feels helpless or hopeless. It believes something is inherently wrong with you. Things will never change. I've tried everything. I will never be able to, right? And then the fourth is the perfectionist. Ding, ding, ding. I've heard this voice before. Similar to the critic, but instead of putting you down, get this. It pushes you harder. Is that crazy? Your efforts aren't enough. You can do better. You should have things under control. You should be nicer, right? Really being aware of, and I love that distinction of it, similar to the critic, but instead of like pushing you away, right? It's like pushing you harder, right? Maybe making you do more. How this can look in your visibility, right? Potentially the critic is making you think like, oh, what I'm doing isn't enough, or it's not good enough. I'm just not going to post or show up at all, right? Versus the perfectionist is like, I need to do more, right? Do you see the difference in that? And so this sounds like a really tiny thing, but I really want you to be aware of what the differences are in that type of negative self-talk, right? And really get honest with yourself. And maybe you're having a moment of like, oh my gosh, like that wasn't me. That was my negative self-talk telling me that, right? And keeping me away. And if in your sustainable process of getting clients, you're finding that your roadblock is visibility, I really would urge you to consider which of these is the loudest and how can you just start to process that, right? Invisible impact, one of the first things we do to clear visibility blocks is number one, like just acknowledging it, right? Just admitting it and saying, oh my gosh, like this is a block for me. I've been having this type of negative self-talk, but then the next step is to journal through it, right? To just start to process and share what's coming up for you there. Okay, so if that is your block right now, I hope that little nugget was helpful. The other block that I'm seeing in a lot of my clients, especially if they are visible, if they are creating 5K a month, but they're really feeling like it's kind of feast or famine, they're not able to get to that consistent 7 to 10K. Maybe it's a sales block for you. And what I really want you to do is ask yourself specifically, right? If I know that I need to get on more sales calls, but I'm having some resistance to that, right? Or maybe I'm even making it hard. Maybe I don't even have the button on my website for people to easily book a discovery call with me, right? I want to book more calls, but also I don't want to because whatever reason, they make me uncomfortable, or I'm an introvert and they zap my energy, whatever it is, right? I really want you to ask yourself, this one's a little more practical. I know I went more mindset on the content block, but I want you to go a little more practical with this one. I feel called to share this with you. Ask yourself, what practically can I do to firm up my boundaries to land more sales calls? And this sounds crazy because if you're in a season and you're like, I want to book more sales calls, but no one's booking, right? Once people book sales calls, it feels really good to get on it and they convert, but I'm having problems in my sustainable process for getting clients, right? Where the breakdown is getting people on the phone in the first place, right? That's what feels like the block for me. So this sounds crazy because usually when we need more clients, we feel like, kind of like, not saying this is bad, but like the desperate energy of like, I need more clients, right? Like I'll take anyone, right? Anyone that wants to get on the phone. But I actually want you to do the opposite. I want you to ask yourself, what better boundaries can I have for my sales calls, for my sales container? And that's actually, it feels like when we put up boundaries in our personal life or in our business, it feels like boundaries are going to keep people away, right? But that couldn't be further from the truth. What I feel like boundaries really do is it helps you feel confident to show up more. Because if you don't feel confident in the way that you set up your sales process, your sales container, you're not going to be showing up and promoting the call. You're actually self-sabotaging, going to make it difficult for people to even hop on with you, right? And so in firming up your boundaries, you're creating a safe container for yourself so you know the people that hop on the sales call with me are going to be a good fit, right? So let me give you some practical examples. What I find for a lot of women that are having hesitations in booking their sales calls is the first thing I ask them is, what time of day are you taking your sales conversations? I think we forget that we actually are in charge of that, right? We actually are in charge of, when people book sales calls with us. And so ask yourself, do I feel good about the time that I have open for people to book sales calls, or do I want to set it to be a different time, right? Do you have a strong pre-survey, right? Before people hop on a sales conversation with you, are they filling out a questionnaire so that you have background information, so that you have contacts, right? Especially if you feel like, I feel nervous to work with strangers on the internet, right? Do you have a pre-survey that really is giving you both a good feel for what it's look like to work together, right? For me, when I work with my one-on-one clients, before they hop on a regular coaching call with me, I had them fill out a pre-survey. Why? Because it's important for me to show up 100%. Yes, but it's also important for my clients to ask themselves, what do I want out of the session? What am I bringing to the session? And so when I do that with my sales people, right, it's important that they're doing that too, and it gives you perspective. And so in some ways it feels like, Anna, you're telling me to like add extra hoops to my sales process. Isn't that going to keep people away? But what it's doing is it's making you more comfortable on your sales call. And the more comfortable you are with your sales calls, the more you're going to talk about it and invite people to get on the sales call. Does that make sense? Let me know if this is making sense. Okay, so potentially changing up the time of when you do sales calls, adding some boundaries, like adding a solid pre-survey, asking yourself, there was a season, you guys, especially when I had my babies and when they were little and really at home with me all the time, and I had like my daughter in my baby carrier, where I didn't do video sales calls. I was like, okay, all my sales calls are going to be on the phone. That's that, right? And you may think like, well, isn't that going to deter some people? Well, hopefully it wouldn't, but if it did, that's okay, because at the season I was also only doing phone conversations, right? As far as my actual coaching. And so I think it's just remembering, the more comfy you can get yourself in your visibility, in your sales, the easier it's going to be for you to talk about it, get visible with it, and for people to book it, right? Okay. So that was some of my tips on if it feels like the sales piece is a roadblock, if it feels like the visibility piece is a roadblock. I hope that was helpful for you, but feel free to drop any questions. And what I want you to do is, in those areas I mentioned, I'm going to say them again, but again, feel free to message me if you need a copy of the free PDF. In your client map, right? This is the order from top to bottom: your offer, your sales process, your community / your content / your free entry point, right? Where are you showing up for free and giving value consistently? And then bottom, traffic. How are people even getting to that? How are people getting to your content to read it, right? So my desire for you, your action step from this training, is to get clear in your business on where your holdup is. Where's the block? Don't solve all the things in your business, right? Just solve the one point that's keeping you from sustainably getting clients, right? Solve that one roadblock. Narrow it in. And again, if you don't know where it is, or it feels like it's multiple areas, or you feel like you're fuzzy on several, start with the visibility. Like, just trust me, start with the visibility. Because I've seen from my clients time and time again, when they consistently start showing up online, posting content, getting visible, right? Start writing their content in advance, not just posting in the moment, right? But really locking in their content, making sure it's moving them towards whatever they're selling, moving them towards their goal. That is the best place to start. And that's why I run Visible Impact. And if you haven't heard me talk about it before, Visible Impact is starting in about a week and a half this next round. And I would love to have you. If you're interested, we still have spaces open. I'm so pumped for the ladies that are already joining. We have people that haven't signed their first client yet. We have women that are shooting for their first 10K month, right? But the common goal is that you are working on your visibility, right? And you're working on using that visibility to get clearer than ever on your ideal client, to feel more confident than ever in your writing. Don't believe the lie that you're bad at writing, right? I think we think like, oh, writing just isn't for me. It's so important that you get visible with that foundational written content. And if you're getting stuck around that, that's literally what we do for 6 weeks. So the goal of the 6 weeks is that you're writing 24 social posts with me, but it's so much more than that, right? The goal is that you are writing content that is in alignment with your goal, right? Whether it's growing your list or selling out your offer, right? That you're really showing up and you're able to write content, you're able to get feedback on that content for a sustained amount of time, right? I hear women say all the time, like, I struggle with being consistent, right? I really struggle with consistency in my visibility, right? And I get that. And I kid you not, the only way I'm consistent in my visibility is because I don't do it all in the moment, right? I hear this with habits all the time, right? How do I get consistently motivated to work out all the time? I'm feeling lack of motivation, and we make that wrong, right? Instead of realizing it's normal as a human, right? I mean, think about it as women, right? Most women have a menstrual cycle, right? And our emotions are ebbing and flowing. And I don't know if this is like backed or proven or not, but I feel like men have cycles of their moods too. And instead of making that wrong, right? Let's embrace that. Let's embrace that we're not always super perky. We're not always super motivated. We're a divinely created human, right? And so let's work with that flow. So anyway, you need to be consistently visible in your business, but you don't need to be consistently motivated. How do I reconcile that? Let me tell you. You write your content in advance. And I get that it feels like a discipline, but that's why I really believe in the power of, sitting down once a week to write your content, right? Sitting down once a week to record your podcast, whatever it is, creating a discipline out of that and just doing it, right? And making it fun. And so in Visible Impact, I lead a 1-hour writing workshop where just 1 hour a week is the time it takes to write your content, get it scheduled, get it set to go, and creating that habit instead of forcing yourself to, be consistent in your visibility through like sheer willpower or sheer force, right? I feel like something shifted in my business when I stopped like just trying to like muscle through everything. And when I started letting things be easy for myself, right? It doesn't mean that everything is easy, but it does mean like, what if we just worked within how we naturally operate, right? Instead of like forcing it. Okay. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Again, today's the early bird deadline for Visible Impacts. You can save $100 on the program. We start on October 4th, and I'm so excited. It is group coaching calls. We have a private Facebook group, and I'm just there to support you behind the scenes as you get visible, right? I think at the start of my business, I was like, oh, visibility should be easy. Nailing my ideal client should be easy, right? Getting clear on my offers should be easy. Why am I struggling? Because it's hard, because you're putting your heart out there, right? You're creating a business, you're creating success, not just in this heartless way, but in a way that you really care about. You want to make money online, right? But you also want to do it in integrity, and you want to do it in a way that doesn't feel icky, right? You want to sell, but you don't want it to feel off, right? And so I stopped asking myself the question, like, how do I feel less vulnerable when I sell? How do I feel less vulnerable in my content? And instead I started saying, oh, that actually is an indicator that I'm doing it right? The moment that I stop feeling vulnerable on a sales call when I'm selling something that costs $7,500, that's the moment where I need to check in my spirit, right? The moment where I post something that's like a story from my heart and shares a part of me and I don't feel anything, that's what's wrong, right? What's right is that we're human and we feel like we're in the process, right? But so you have the human experience, but also don't let that hold you back from getting consistently visible. And that's where support and accountability and my coaching through your mindset blocks comes in. Because I'm saying it's okay if you're imperfect. It's okay if you're a little bit wonky. It's okay if you're scattered. It's okay if you're inconsistent. But also your business needs you to be consistent to make money. Okay. So that's where you hire support. And if you are looking for support in your visibility, know that I would be thrilled to support you. When I see women commit to 6 weeks of visibility and showing up for that, I see them get such radical clarity in so many areas, in their message, in their niche, in their visibility. I love that Katie, if you missed Katie's podcast episode, she was a Visible Impact client. I love that she shared that she came into Visible Impact to get clarity on like her ideal client and her message and her niche. And even though the program isn't like 6 weeks of focusing on your message, we just have like one little module on message, the program is on visibility. She said like, that's the best thing that could have happened for me nailing my ideal client. And she was able to sign a client in the program, and she was able to go on to sign more clients. And so I really encourage you, if you're feeling wonky, if you're feeling unclear, if you're ready for the up level, just hop into this container with me. I would love to support you. Okay, message me if you have any cues. I'm happy to chat through your phase of business. A lot of people are like, hey, is my business, is my business not far enough along for visible impact, or is my business too far along for visible impact? Just message me, and I'm happy to tell you honestly whether it's a fit or not. And if it's not a fit, I'm happy to recommend some other resources or support that would be a fit for you. Message me, let's connect. Okay, let's do your homework. So if you tune into the live, I would love to hear your biggest takeaway. Drop for me in the chat box your biggest takeaway. And I would also like to give you some homework. Okay, your homework is, especially if you're feeling like, my roadblock in this sustainable process for getting clients is that visibility piece. From those 4 types of negative self-talk, I want you to identify which the worrier, the critic, the victim, the perfectionist are you battling the strongest right now? Just get clear on it. Just name it, drop it in the comments below. I would love to hear what it is, and just start to feel the freedom and start to feel it falling off on you. And I guarantee you, next time that little voice pops up, right, it's not going to be as strong, right? As that little voice pops up, you're going to be able to say, oh, that's just the worrier, right? That's just the worrier imagining worst case scenario and overestimating the odds of something bad happening, waiting with apprehension for little signs of trouble, right? I'm going to paste this in the chat too, so you have a copy of the 4 types of negative self-talk. And I hope you guys have a beautiful Thursday, a beautiful weekend, and thank you so much for tuning in.